been sanctioned by the Treasury Department for its narco trafficking
Sure.
issues. And also we have China. That China opposes any kind of action that violates the principles of the UN Charter or infringes on the sovereignty and security of other countries. That is the word that was spoken by the Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian during a news conference in Beijing. Beijing opposes external forces interfering in Venezuela's internal affairs under any pretext, as was added. I want to ask a question to Norman Floyd Barnes, joining us from Washington, D.C. You see, when we talk about China, China is opposing United States' position on Venezuela, but there is no one to oppose China's position on the fact regarding Taiwan. I believe in the both issues on this part in the Asian part of the world, whereas in the Latin American part of the world, that this is a land dispute taking beyond to those who have the upper hand in a military war front. My question towards you would be, China is opposing this on one side, but has other expansionist plans regarding Taiwan. And of course, in the recent times, they have shared retaliatory comments with a nation like Japan. I want to understand how you felt. What is the overlook? This is the 4th day of the year, and we have breaking news such as this. I want to understand how you felt.
Thank you for the question. And again, we are now in a new world. Like I said, welcome to 2026. Japan, Russia, other powerhouses in the world is now looking at this as another lesson learned. The question right now is, what is China's response is going to be regarding their area? It now appears that the United States is going to utilize the Monroe Doctrine to oversee and control activities in the Western Hemisphere. So that leaves Russia to continue with Europe, and that leaves China to contend with Asia. For the most part right now, we could see things happen very quickly, very swiftly in regards to exactly what we just did in Venezuela that could happen in South Asia, particularly with Taiwan. There's nothing right now that is going to sanction or can be used to slow down China's goal of reclaiming Taiwan. Taiwan, we could have the same thing happen to Taiwan very shortly, in a couple weeks, couple days, could be hours. It could be the same situation. And so the United States has basically showed their hand, and the rest of the world is now going to respond accordingly. We could have a copycat situation in Taiwan. We could have the same situation happening in Ukraine, in Europe. So right now, it's an open door. We started 2026 with a new standard. We set up a new standard, and basically, if you can do it, I can do it better. So we have to, again, wait and see what happens next and what next shoe is going to drop. It's going to be a lot of shoes dropping.
Of course, it's important to understand what kind of standard has been set by U.S. President Donald Trump on the 4th day of the year. He has attacked Venezuela's leader and has captured him. Right now, Nicolas Maduro is in a detention center in New York. But I want to come to a different issue altogether. I want to talk about Southeast Asia and South Asia in a whole. We have seen wars breaking out like it was a very trendy thing to do last year. We've seen Pakistan and India at it for over 2 weeks. Yes, it was blamed during a terrorist attack was included there. We've seen Thailand and Cambodia coming into a tension between religious statute between the two nations. We've seen how Prime Minister Paetong Tar and the military general inside Cambodia had a phone call, and because of that phone call, tension has risen in both of these sides. So once again, I want to come between China and Taiwan. Like I was talking with Norman Floyd Barnes, it's important because once someone sets the standard, especially if it's the United States of America, others shall follow, whether it be a minute issue. But one thing has definitely left the table. Dialogue and diplomacy is being left completely walked through the door the minute the troops were in the ground in Venezuela. So one can predict that it is going to be a very profitable time for the military industrial complex, because for one reason we know that there was radar systems installed in Venezuela by the Chinese counterpart of this industrial complex, which failed to predetermine such an invasion or such a precision strike by the United States military. So once again, that individual group is being determined by the people. I want to ask you, what is your take? I mean, this is new. I have not seen such a precision strike happen in the last 8 to 9 months.
My position about what's happening in South Asia? Yeah, well, I think that there's just a general destabilization which is going on by countries which are flexing their muscles, and it's like might over right in all of these situations, and people are choosing aggressive military action or some kind of a forceful entry into countries, if you will, over diplomacy at the United Nations. Now, I've said many times on this show, the failure of the Security Council to firmly take a position that is clearly states that peace shall be the standard, and as Norman has said, we have a new standard. The failure of the Security Council to establish any kind of a peace standard is encouraging countries to take matters into their own hands. And the UN budget has been cut dramatically. They don't have the peacekeeping forces that they've had before. So it's like every man for himself. And if I can do it, then you can do it. Now, Taiwan is a very, very, very special problem. The United States has supported it as against communist China back in the day. But China today and Taiwan today are both economic powerhouses.
Correct.
And for China, China has already said that they are going to do to Taiwan what they've done to Hong Kong. It is an inseparable part of the Chinese country. And it was only established by when Chiang Kai-shek and his Chinese Communist forces left China and inhabited Taiwan. So there is this historical connection that this was a breakaway part of China as opposed to an independent country. The United States quickly called it independent so that they would be able to counter some of the actions that were taking place in China at the time. But one hopes that they could they would revert to diplomacy. Although China has been very aggressive in the South China Sea about this, and in the straits that separate the country. I hope there's no copycat. That's Norman's word as well. I hope there's no copycat action like this. But when you've got a cowboy riding on his horse, charging into places and saying, waving his hat, I'm in charge here, who knows what can happen? And that's exactly what Trump has been doing over the last year.
Of course, that's quite so important as the last 12 months of Donald Trump's administration. This would be the time where he has declared some kind of act of war. If some people won't even call it an act of war. I want to have a very small question to Norman Floyd Barnes before we can proceed to a short commercial break. As Sir John Dalton was talking about that let's not see a copycat kind of situation. But 2-3 days ago, if not last week, Italy's leader, Giorgia Meloni, had said that 2026 is going to be the year of escalation. We will see a lot of escalation. And not only so, a couple of days go by and we do find an escalation in the Latin Americas. So my question would be, do you predict that there are more on the way, certainly in the likes of China, Taiwan, if not those who have had fragile ceasefires? What do you think, Norman Floyd Barnes?
Yes, as predicted and as forecast, um, that comment by the government of Italy was not a fraudulent slip. It was basically a fact. Uh, let's take a look. We have had this situation that happened in Venezuela. It's 24 hours since right now, actually 24 hours plus since the invasion, since the extraction of the president and his wife from Venezuela. And you have not heard from the United Nations. You have not heard from China. You not heard from Russia. You've not heard from North Korea. You have not heard from many places. So let's question it. Why? My response is because they already had pre-notice of what's happening. There's already been discussions on exactly how everything plays out and how the deal is going to advantage them. So there's a bigger picture here. We're just seeing the symptoms of a act, and we're looking at it in terms of reaction to it. Well, the reaction is that it's been pre-planned. There's a discussion. There's a lot of things that's happening. It's going to precipitate from this going on. This is just a series of what in store for 2026. We have to understand that these issues are pre-planned. They're no strategy. If you're watching, you're looking over here at let me tell you, let me explain something else to you. The issue, the attack in Nigeria has response to this because this actual event in Venezuela, is supposed to happen on the same day. But because of the weather situation, it did not happen. So this is pre-planned. So that was an event that was planned as a diversion to what is going on right now. Uh, this is supposed to happen on Christmas Day, part of the process. Weather didn't permit it. The weather situation changes, so it happened yesterday. So everybody's been briefed on what's going on, what's the next show, and they've been told their position and what was going to happen. So we're going to see a cascading process of different events happening around the world. And these all events that we'll see in 2026 is already pre-planned, predicted, and the outcomes have already been served. So right now, a shift is happening. We're dealing with trade and commerce. We're dealing with countries now have to look at sovereignty. If you are not, the question is right now, if you're a country that you have rare minerals, you have resources, and you don't have a strong economic situation, a strong relationship with the superpowers, you are now being looked at as another trophy that can
Right.
be a change regarding the superpowers. So right now, you have to be very careful if you are a country and you have not have, let's say, kissed the ring, you are now subject to the same type of action that's going on. So this is a very political thing, global thing, situation going on. So we have to be very conscious what we see for now.
Right.
Watch where the movements are. And
Right.
everything is conjunction with the big movement. You will see a reaction, single action. You'll see an event like happened today. There'll be another event next week. And you'll notice that the countries are not responding and going crazy because they already know this is
Right.
part of a play, a show.
Of course, I must thank Norman Floyd Barnes for joining us on the Zoom contact and for his analysis into whatever that is happening regarding the U.S. administration as well as the U.S. military's posturing. I really hope all of this event does make America great again, or at least that was the campaign that Donald Trump had hoisted before his second term. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for a short commercial break. After the break, we shall be analyzing more issues pertaining to the global order.
Majestic lobby, blending timeless elegance with modern design. Experience 5-star comfort in suites and rooms. Sophisticated fine dining restaurant. Crystal clear swimming pool for ultimate relaxation. Modern gym and serene spa for well-being. Perfect venue for corporate events, weddings and parties. Seamless and secured. Elegant and eye-catching design. Indulge, relax, discover the first 5-star chain hotels in Bangladesh. Grand Palace Hotel Dhaka, 22 Kakrail, Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Welcome to Grand Club at Mirpur 10 Dhaka. elegant spa and wellness facility for ladies and gents. Play pool and snooker in international standard billiard zone. World-class gym facility with exclusive equipment for man and woman.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the last segment of International Affairs. I want to touch briefly on the Middle East. Of course, I'm talking about Israel-Gaza issue. 5 Palestinians were killed in Israeli strikes in the southern Gaza Strip in a new violation of the ceasefire agreement. 2 children were among the victims in the attacks, which targeted tents sheltering displaced civilians in a refugee camp in the Al-Mawasi area of Khan Yunis. I want to discuss this regarding because the strikes came shortly after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu threatened to respond accordingly to the injury of soldiers in clashes with Palestinian fighters in Rafah. So that is the basic update when it comes to the fighting between the two sides. But according to the United Nations, the aid lifelines are under strain as winter worsens in Gaza. I want to come to John Dalton. I know during the break we were talking about how we must touch upon this issue regarding how children are dying, people are, there is mass suffering inside that. And I understand that the world news is focused on military confrontation, but over here it was more of an ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. I want to understand how you felt.
Well, I've been through harsh winters in Gaza, and it's a terrible situation on its own. Very difficult living conditions. But I think that, the message of Benjamin Netanyahu coming to the United States, being rewarded with the 25 F-35 aircraft, essentially being forgiven for all his transgressions. He's a wanted criminal at the criminal court, the International Criminal Court, and yet he saunters into the White House like he's the #1 guy, and. So I think that somehow or other, I pray for these poor people in Gaza. The situation there is extremely dire. Aid trucks are being prevented from coming in through the Rafah border with Egypt. UN on the ground is not being able to properly get resources into the hands of the people who are also suffering. People living in tents are being attacked by the Israeli Air Force and bombed, even as they're supposed to be in some sort of a protected shelter. And the new policy, of course, is that no NGO can operate in Gaza unless and until they register with the Israeli government and reveal the names and all of the background conditions of all of their workers. So Israel is almost making a roadblock to make it extremely difficult for any NGO to work in Gaza and provide support. Correct. Because they will review all of your posts on LinkedIn and all of your posts on other social media. They will look at your background. They will check totally everything about each individual person who's going to be working on the Gaza case. And the extent to which is to strangle aid, prevent it from coming in, and therefore sort of make it so cruel on the people that are living there. It's cruelty as policy, which is sort of despicable. But again, there's nobody to speak for these people who are suffering. And I think that, again, the United Nations is powerless to do anything about it, but the United States as a moral principle should simply try to enforce the ceasefire agreement that's already in effect, which is not holding at all. I mean, Israel is acting without any kind of control, right, and bombing the poor people of Gaza.
I know the media does say that there's worldwide condemnation because Israel is banning national aid organizations, those who are, as you were saying, and because I've been calling it a fragile ceasefire ever since this issue has been coming to the screens, and over 400 people have still been murdered ever since the October ceasefire that has been in place. However, I want to ask you a last question before we can go on towards the end. Do you think that Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump share like-mindedness when it's about territories, war fronts, confrontations? Because I do realize that the two leaders do share same kind of ideology.
Yeah, they're both very, very harsh right-wing dictators whose tendency is for authoritarianism. Now, you know, Benjamin Netanyahu, until he became the prime minister, had two passports. Now, he had an American passport as well as an Israeli passport. He only gave up his American passport when he ran for public office in Israel. So he has deep ties to the United States and deep ties to politicians in the United States. His father was a teacher at Cornell. He went to Cornell. He was nurtured in the United States.
Right.
And so he carries this right-wing relationship with him, where many, many people still see him as kind of like a dual citizen. You know, I think that it's hard for me to imagine how he can simply go into the United States as a war criminal. I mean, certainly we would not let any other war criminal simply walk into the United States to meet with the president and to share. They share the same doctrine, they share the same approach. Trump will talk about the ceasefire, but he's going to do nothing specific. Oh, they'll condemn it and say it's bad, but nothing specific to stop Netanyahu from doing these things. In fact, they have empowered him even more by giving him additional aircraft.
Correct. Thank you so much for your valuable insight and, of course, comments regarding all of the worldwide issues here on this platform on International Affairs. I must also thank Norman Floyd Barnes, who had joined us from Washington, D.C. Ladies and gentlemen, today is the 4th of January. It is significant because it's the birthday of Louis Braille, the inventor of the tactile reading system, highlighting its importance for education and the inclusion of those who are visibly impaired. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today on International Affairs. Do stay tuned for the following program at 3 p.m. I will see you all tomorrow.